Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us for the Teacher Development Podcast, a series of podcasts focusing on English language teaching for teachers based in Pakistan, brought to you by the British Council. In every episode, we will break down a lesson plan for primary level students. The lesson plans come from the teachingenglish.org.uk website. We will explore different ways to adapt the activities to overcome some challenges that teachers face in the classroom. My name is Amy, and I'm an English teacher.
My name's Chris, and I'm an English teacher too. Now, Amy, could you tell me 3 things that you like?
I like dancing, I like the colour orange, and I like reading non-fiction. Why do you ask, Chris?
Well, I'm asking because that's the content of today's lesson.
That's right. Today's lesson is called Class Tree Display, and you can find the link to the lesson plan on the screen now. I have a question for our listeners. What kind of pictures or wall charts or posters do you have on your classroom walls? We would like to hear from you, so please use the comment section and tell us. Chris, a question for you. What do you think about decorating your classroom walls or making displays in your classroom?
I think displays are great, especially if the students can play a part in making them, so that they can choose what's on the walls of their own classroom.
Great. Is that included in this lesson plan?
Yes, it is. So the students will be making a tree display. There's going to be a tree. There'll be leaves and apples, and it's about things they like. They'll write sentences on the leaves, then they're going to draw on the apples. Then they stick them in random places on the tree, and then it's a matching activity, matching the apples to the leaves.
What if the teacher and the students are in a country where they don't have apples? Could you choose a different fruit?
Yeah, that's fine. That's no problem. So you could use mangoes or papayas or any kind of fruit, although you can't write very much on a banana.
Okay, great. And when you did this lesson, Chris, do you think the students enjoyed it?
Yes, I did. First of all, it's a very student-centered activity. So, as I say, the students are choosing the content of the activity for themselves. And then also it involves drawing, and students tend to like activities which involve drawing. So that's all positive. And I think it's quite a good activity from the teacher's perspective as well. Wouldn't you agree, Amy?
Yeah, I enjoyed doing this lesson. I did it with a new class as an introduction lesson, so the students could introduce themselves to each other and the things that they liked, and that worked well. I also did this activity for clothing because that's quite easy to draw. So I think the teacher can adapt this activity to suit a lot of different vocab, for example, like family. And the learners were all engaged. They were all busy. Like you said, they were drawing, so they were quite happy. So it's a good active learning activity. If you have a very large number of students in your class, maybe 50 or more, can it still be engaging for all the students, Chris?
Yes, you could. I think what you've got to think about is modeling and instruction checking questions. Okay, so if you've got a small class and you set them an activity and one student doesn't understand, you as the teacher can jump in and help them out, tell them what to do. If you've got a large class, you need the students to work in several groups, and you can't keep your eye on every group at the same time. So what you do is, before you start the activity, you need to thoroughly demonstrate the activity or model it. And then before you tell the students to go, you can ask them some questions to check that they understand what to do.
Can you give us an example of an instruction checking question, an ICQ? What kind of question would you ask?
Well, with this activity, it'd be something like, are we going to draw on the leaves or are we going to write on the leaves? Are we going to stick the apples and the leaves next to each other, or are we going to stick them apart? When I did this activity, one of the students, instead of drawing 3 pictures on their apple, they took 3 apples and drew 1 picture on each apple. So that's the kind of thing that you need to check the students have understood.
That would use a lot of paper if all the students had 3 apples each.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing we've got to think about is resources. So, Amy, if a teacher had fewer resources or maybe even no resources to do this activity, what advice could we give them?
Well, I think this lesson would be difficult to do with no resources at all. I think you can reduce the number of resources to do this lesson. So if you don't have sticky tape, you can lay the tree and the apples and the leaves on the floor. If you don't have colored paper, you can use the blackboard or your whiteboard. You can use your students' notebooks, and you can also decorate the tree or use sort of recycled materials maybe to decorate the tree. It would be quite difficult to do this in an online lesson, though the students could still draw their likes. The teacher can still take some ideas from this lesson. The students can draw in the online lesson and they can show their pictures to the camera, but it would be quite difficult to do the matching in an online class.
So we've talked about large classes. We've talked about not having all the resources. We'd really like to hear from you, the listeners. So you're the teacher of your class, you're the expert. Please tell us in the comments section, how would you adapt this activity for your class?
Yes, please do share your ideas. That's all for today's episode. This was episode 4 of the Teacher Development Podcast. And if you haven't listened to episodes 1, 2, and 3, please do check those out. Next time, we will be hearing from a local English teacher in Pakistan. So thank you for listening and see you next time.